This is Road Noise, episode number 37, our family trip to Disney World. Hello again, and thank you for listening to Road Noise, life 1 mile at a time. I'm your host, Michael Blackston, and this time as we do the podcast, I'm the one sitting in the passenger side. So, in essence, you're sitting in my lap as we drive back from Disney World. We just took almost a week-long trip, 4 days in the parks to Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and my wife is driving. My son's in the back seat, woohoo, listening, and my daughter Merida is in the back seat with her head laid over because she's a tuckered little angel and she has fallen asleep. We've got a long drive ahead of us, so I'm going to try to get this podcast episode in, even though I'm a little bit late getting it started anyway. And what I want to do in this episode is to give you a rundown of what all we went through every day in the Magic Kingdom and EPCOT Center and Hollywood Studios, and then the final day we did the second part, what we didn't get to the first time in the Magic Kingdom, and a couple of things that we did the first day we redid on the second day. It was very fun. If you've never been to the Magic Kingdom or to any of the Disney World locations, it's really a fun time for the family. It's something you need to plan on and really put a lot of thought into because it's expensive. But we were lucky enough that the rest of our family went with us. We had how many we had? We had 9 people. Had 9 human beings with us total. 2 of them were very young, 3 years old and 1.5. But there were 9 people total. And what we decided to do was to rent a house instead of going to hotels. And there were 3 different families paying for it. So we split the house up 3 different ways, and that came up to it was really cost efficient for us to do it that way. So the cast of characters, just so you'll know who I'm talking about if I mention them by name, was of course me and my wife Kayla, my son Noah. If you hear Merida, that's my daughter. Then we also had my mom, my stepdad, also known affectionately as Papa, my nephew Evan, his mom, who is my sister Stephanie, and then the baby Logan. And so the first day, day 1, let's talk about the Magic Kingdom. First of all, I was surprised. Everybody was surprised because it wasn't as hot as we expected it to be. You go to Orlando, Florida in June and you're expecting to just suffocate in the heat. And at first, when people found out we were going during that time, they were like, why are you picking this time of the year, especially those who know I hate the heat? It's because my wife had already scheduled and solidified that she would be off during this week, and she could not change that. So we had decided that before we decided to go to Disney World, and so that's where it went. That's when we had to go. But it wasn't as hot, and so we were really surprised. So on day 1, after we got up and got ready and got in the cars, had our breakfast, and went, the first thing we did was we had to wait on the ferry to go across to the park. You can't just get to Disney World by walking. You park, and then you either get there by ferry or monorail if you didn't stay at one of the resorts in the park. Well, the monorail was not working at the time, which is faster, and it's what we wanted to do, but at the time, I don't know if it wasn't working or they had it shut down or what, but the monorail wasn't working, so we got on the ferry, and we had to wait about 30 to 45 minutes, all crammed up with people just right on top of you. But we were under some shelter, so it was shaded at the time. And once we waited about 30 to 45 minutes, they piled us onto the ferry, and we got into the park. Now, as soon as we got into the park, the very first thing we ended up doing was we noticed that Merida, my daughter's talking. She's waking up. Hey, baby girl. Hey, you want to say hey to people on the podcast?
Say hey.
Nope, not going to do it. She turned away like I had stuck something smelly in her face. It might be, this microphone might smell like my breath. Anyway, she saw that Snow White was just immediately on the left as soon as we walked into the park. So we went and we waited probably 15 or 20 minutes in a line to meet Snow White. And that was great because that's one of her favorite Disney princesses, and she had been talking the whole time up to this that she was going to get to meet Snow White. She wants Daisy. She wants Daisy. That was one of her favorite toys. She got it last night, and Daisy has already made the rounds. She's slept with her. She's walked around going into IHOP this morning, and Daisy even got to drive a little bit this afternoon on the way home. Anyway, I wanted to get some of the park people to do intros for me for the podcast, but then I kind of chickened out because I was afraid they might have rules against that, and I didn't want to, first of all, be denied, and then if they did decide to do it, I didn't want to get them in trouble, so I didn't ask. Next, we got in line to meet Merida, and that's the princess our daughter's named after. When my wife and I went to see Brave, back when it first came out at the movie theaters, 2012, you said, and we sat there in the theater, and we loved the movie, and we couldn't wait because my wife's ancestry comes from Scotland, and so she's all about the Celtic culture and stuff like that, so we couldn't wait for the movie in the first place. But when we saw it and the princess was named Merida, we immediately fell in love with that name and said, our daughter, if we ever have a daughter, this is what we're going to name her. And Disney has a history for me and Kayla too, because it was our very first date was to see Aladdin in the theater. Mickey and Minnie topped our wedding cake, so Disney has a special place for us, and now our daughter's named Merida. So she got to meet Merida, and we waited in line for that, and that was a long line. Then after that, it was time for the Festival of Fantasy Parade. Here's a little clip right now.
Under the sea! Life under the sea is better than any teasing or hotel.
Next, it was the Winnie the Pooh ride. Did she fall asleep? That's not the one she fell asleep in, right? Okay, yeah, she fell asleep on It's a Small World. So we went through, that's right, because she loved the Pooh ride at first, and she wanted to do it again, but there was so much more to do. And so we went through the Pooh ride, and then right around that same area is, I think, close by, it's the Carousel. Now, it had gotten, like I said, it wasn't as hot as we expected, but that wasn't to say that it wasn't hot at all.
And don't forget the Dramamine.
That's right. We did hop ourselves up on some Dramamine every morning of every day, because when we went to Universal Studios, if you go back and listen to the World of Harry Potter episode, you'll know that me and Kayla did not do well on the rides that were spinny or uppy downy at all. We got sick, and someone said Dramamine yourself and it'll make a world of difference, and it did. It really, really helped, except for the fact that we couldn't find non-drowsy. So it wasn't that bad because we were walking most of the time. But that leads us, that's a perfect segue right into the carousel, because Kayla and I, that's not right. I was holding Merida and waiting in line for the carousel. She loves carousels, and she saw this huge, beautiful thing, and she said, I want to ride that. So it was my turn to hold her. I didn't know what Kayla did, and I found out later that the Dramamine had kicked in, and she was sleepy and standing still, so she was about to fall out. So Kayla decided to find a shady spot on the pavement and just lay there like a hobo.
Got a nice nap. It was wonderful.
Hey, you know, if it's something that you don't want to... if you don't care what people think about you, as long, you know, if it would have been better if you'd have had like a little metal cup you could stick out there and have people throw change in there.
Yeah.
But I found that funny that Kayla was laying down there at the carousel ride. But that's okay. You know, if you got to wait and it's somewhere you can do it, go for it. That's what I say.
Yeah, it was nice.
Now, It's a Small World is one of those rides that everybody has to do when you go to Disney World. You got to. It's a tradition. There's not a whole lot to it. I mean, it's not a thrill ride. What it is cool. And on a day like these days that we've been there, anytime you'd go into cool, it was just fantastic. And it's a boat ride too, so the kind of coolness, and there's water in there, and it's a really neat.
Move slow so you can take a nap.
Exactly. And that's, did you fall asleep on It's a Small World?
Yes, I did.
I think I did too. I think that might be the one where we were all, that's right. Because that's the one where we had all said, I just fell asleep on this ride as we were waiting to get off, and I said I fell asleep too. And 2 minutes later, I nodded off again and dreamed of a jar of jelly. It was just and then I woke immediately back up. It was just a jar of jam. I don't know what kind it was. It was just a jar of jelly, and in that like minute that I nodded off again while we were waiting to disembark from the ride, I dreamed of jelly. I don't know why.
That's a good dream.
It is a good dream. It was a tasty dream, but I didn't get to taste the jelly. It was just a jar. So after A Small World, we had kind of gotten a little bit of a rest, and we got, we got cooled off a good bit, and it was time to wait in some more long lines. All during the day, the characters, I know years ago the characters would kind of walk around, but they don't do that anymore. they can't. There's just too many people, and the way people are nowadays, they'll attack. And there are so many characters and everything, they have to have a little more organization. So now if you go to Disney World and you want to get your picture made with Minnie and Mickey and all of those people, you have to wait in a line, and it's very organized, and they take you a family at a time to go in there and have your pictures made. And it's usually in a place that's fairly cool and air-conditioned and things like that, at least some of the major characters like Minnie and Donald and Goofy and all of that.
Some of the lions were very inefficient.
Well, they were. I mean, there were some of them, but I think it just has to do with there's only so much efficiency that you can get going on with, that many people. Now, if you're hearing some stuff going on that sounds like more sound and wind, that's okay. It's just the sound of the air conditioner in the car, but I'm not going to tell my family that we can't have that background noise. You'll just have to deal with it because, the dashboard cam or display says 102 degrees outside. So next, Noah wanted to ride Splash Mountain. He had heard that you could get soaking wet, and he was hot. And I don't really like to get wet when I'm walking around, but I agreed to get on it with him with Evan, my nephew. And we got on and we waited a long time, but we really didn't get wet. The only thing I will say is I thought it was going to be like Splashwater Falls at Six Flags, where you go up, you go down, you get soaked, and that's it. But no, I really did enjoy though Splash Mountain. The ride itself is really neat, and it's quite a long ride and tells the story of it's the Brer Rabbit and the Zippity Doo-Dah, whatever that thing is, Song of the South. It's the ride that kind of represents the Song of the South from Disney. Then we met back with the family for the light parade after that, and then headed to the castle for the fireworks show at the end of the night. The interesting thing about this was we were watching the fireworks show, and my daughter was just amazed. Her face was alight. Not only in the fireworks, it's just the expression on her face. She was just lit up. She's fussing at Noah, telling him not to eat up all the chips. And then I noticed, as I'm holding her, a spreading warmth on my belly. And Merida had peed on me. Yep. So I had to go all the way home, back to the house we were in, with a shirt where Merida had peed on me. And so that was not a fun end to the night, but I wasn't it happened halfway through the fireworks show, so I wasn't about to disturb her and not let her see the fireworks show to do it. So I just sat there like that, uncomfortable, and dealt with it and enjoyed her face. And then, of course, we get to go and nobody can find Evan, so we got to watch the laser show. We weren't going to watch the laser show on the castle. We were going to wait till the next time we were at Magic Kingdom and go on home because we were so tired, but Evan got lost. We couldn't find him. His phone was dead, so we couldn't call him, and we got to watch the laser show on the castle, which I'm glad that we did because it was really good and more fireworks. And then as we were leaving, Merida looks up to me. I was the main one to push the stroller we had her in, and she looked up to me and she said, "Daddy, Daddy." And I looked down and said, "What, baby?" And she said, "Daddy, I don't want to leave." And that broke my heart. I mean, I knew we had 3 more days, but it broke my heart. So let's jump forward to day 2 at EPCOT Center. Again, not as hot as we expected. We got up and it was kind of a dry heat. It was hot, there was sweat, there was discomfort, but it was nowhere near the misery I was expecting at first. Now, at this recording, parking at all parks is $20 for a regular car. And was it Epcot Center where you had to pee so bad going in that you just about busted?
That was day 1.
That was day 1. Okay, that happened on day 1. So Kayla knew to go ahead and empty your bladder right before we got into the parking lot because you have to wait in lines in the parking lot to get on the trams and stuff. But we got in, and the first thing was Spaceship Earth. And here's a soundbite from Spaceship Earth. Okay, Noah.
What?
We're at Epcot Center, and we just got off Spaceship Earth. What'd you think about Spaceship Earth?
I thought it was cool.
I did too. It's been a while since they changed it. Last time we were here, when I was a little kid, they had stuff that we have now down here in the bottom part of the futuristic type stuff. They had, like, for all the futuristic type stuff, and now I'm sitting here holding it in my hand.
Oh, they had phones?
Well, they had things like Skype type things where you were talking to people in the park and looking at them and they could see you and hear you, like on the Jetsons. We thought that was kind of cool. And now you do it on Skype on your phone. It's like nothing. Next, me, Noah, Evan, and Mike, a.k.a. Papa, rode Mission Space. Now, that's a kind of a thrill ride. It's not too awful bad, but it's one of those that if I had not taken the Dramamine, I would have been puking on. But it wasn't that bad. Kayla didn't get into it because it clams you up 4 people at a time in a small compartment and then rocks you around and everything in front of you. It makes you look like you're landing a space rover on Mars.
No closed in for me. Nope.
And so Kayla didn't ride. But me and Mike and Evan and Noah did, and that was fun. And this is a little bit of soundbite from that. All right, Noah, we're doing Mission Space, and there's 4 of us on the team.
Evan, Noah, Dad, and Papa.
What is this about? What do we do? I have no idea.
I have no idea. I forgot.
You don't have a clue what
I
we're doing.
forgot.
Take off in a space capsule.
Take off in a
We
space
gotta land
capsule,
it.
and we got to land it. And we're a team of 4.
Yes.
Okay, so Mike's going to be the pilot.
The pilot, commander.
Commander is
Commander.
Noah.
There's a navigator and something else.
Evan's
Mission
the engineer.
specialist.
He's the mission specialist, and I'm the comedian wearing the red shirt.
Except you don't have a red shirt on.
Oh, Noah's got the red shirt on.
I'm not a comedian.
I'm sorry, Noah. It's been nice to meet you.
It's
nice knowing you.
He's the expendable
Yeah.
crewman. The
That's
expendable
right.
Crewman. He's the one that gets killed on a mission.
It's always the one in the red shirt.
Next was my favorite part of EPCOT Center, and it's one of my favorite things to do at all of the parks at Disney World because I love social studies, I love culture, and I love that my son is very much into that as well. So if you go to EPCOT Center, all around, the big ball is Spaceship Earth, the big golf ball looking thing. That's your Spaceship Earth with the futuristic stuff, and that was kind of neat, but my main attraction for me at EPCOT Center is the World Showcase, and it is each little section of area, maybe a block, not even, maybe a half a block section that you walk all the way around the back side of the lot from left all the way around over to the right is different cultures of the world, and the architecture is accurate to that area of the world. Everything, there's restaurants and there's different things you can do. Some of the Disney princesses and characters whose cultures represented those areas, those would be where the princesses were. And so we went into the World Showcase, and the very first one was the Mexico place. I ate at that restaurant. My wife and I ate at that restaurant when we went 9 years ago, and I remember loving whatever thing it was. I want to say it was nachos, but there weren't nachos on the menu when we got there this time. It may not have been those, but anyway, I loved the food there, and that was my biggest thing when we went there at Epcot. I wanted to have lunch at the Mexican restaurant in the Aztec temple. We just hit a rough portion of road, so it might get a little bit louder than normal. But when we went and tried to get a seat into the restaurant, they told us it was closed until 4:30 so they could prepare for the supper crowd, and they closed down to do a change over there. And so we ended up going to the Mexican restaurant right outside the Aztec temple, just a little pickup window thing, and Kayla and I loved our food. Noah hated his. I don't even remember what he got, some sort of beef taco things that he just yeah.
I thought they were tacos, real tacos, but instead of being tacos, they were more like the spiciest burritos unfolded that you will ever taste.
Tacos with barbecue, some sort of spicy barbecue meat in a soft taco. And he didn't like it, and Brenda tried it. She didn't like it, so...
We loved ours. We had empanadas, and we loved ours.
One last thing. If you ever go there, it's right next to the Aztec temple. If you ever go there, the nachos are not good. The soft shell tacos are not good either. Just the thing I hated the most. The rice tasted like tape.
The rice tasting like tape. See, I didn't taste any of that, so I can't say for sure whether anybody listening wouldn't like it. You might like that type of thing, but it was not, as you can tell, Noah's favorite. Then there was more waiting in line. I mean, there was just a lot of waiting in line to meet princesses and things like that. And then Noah, Kayla, Evan, and I split off from everybody else to walk around the World Showcase, and that took most of the rest of the day. The original intention was to stop in each little nook of culture and kind of experience that, but we just were so hot by that time and exhausted. Our feet were hurting that we decided to just kind of do the express version and walk past everything, and if we saw something that really piqued our interest, we could get into that, but other than that, just walk on by and get around it. And then that's pretty much what happened at Epcot. It was a good day, but it was a little bit more, it was stressful, but it was a little more easygoing.
Yeah, and then we ended up meeting back at the character spot right there at the front, kind of near the ball. And Michael and Stephanie and Evan and Mike and Noah all took the babies, Merida and Logan, to go into the character spot and wait inside in very long lines to meet Mickey and Minnie, was it? And Goofy. And that's right. I would have loved, and I guess I'm a terrible mother, I would have loved to have been in there when my daughter met Minnie Mouse because that's her favorite. But my feet were not going to handle another line. It was not going to happen. They were not going to allow it. So I sat down with Brenda, who is Michael's mother, on a bench under the shelter. And this was at about 8:30 at night. It was the last thing we were doing. And much like myself on day one at the carousel, Brenda decided that she wanted a nap. Because we'd both been saying, asking when we were going to get to go on the nap ride. That was the ride we really wanted, was the nap ride. So Brenda decided to take hers right then and there. So she laid down on the bench beside me and went out and probably slept for a good 20 minutes herself.
That's the way to go. Just let other people wait in the line, find a cool spot, and just lay down on a bench like a hobo, like a bunch of hobos.
Hey.
I was on vacation with a bunch of hobos.
The nap is free.
So that was pretty much what we had as our experience for day 2 at Epcot Center. And of course, as we were walking out, Merida looked up at me with those blue eyes and said, "Daddy, I don't want to leave." And after we left the park, we had to have supper. We hadn't had supper yet, and we were very hungry, so we found a place to eat. We went to Denny's, and that was really nice. Noah sat on Daddy's lap and ate, and then I started feeling a warm...
It wasn't Noah.
No, it wasn't Noah, was it? Merida, thank you. Got my children confused. Sat on my lap to eat, and I started feeling a warm spot spreading on my leg. Merida peed on me for the second night in a row. I started thinking this is something I'm going to have to deal with every day of the parks, but it wasn't. And then day 3, we hit Hollywood Studios. Now, here's what I thought when I walked outside on day 3. Dear God, it feels like we're melting outside. That's the heat we were expecting. We walked out in the humidity. You could hold a cup up and it would fill with water, just holding it in the air. It was so stinking humid on day 3. But we knew, we weren't in bad spirits because that's what we were expecting in the first place. So we had our little neck fans, and we put fresh batteries in our neck fans, and we were ready to go. Now, I didn't take any audio at Hollywood Studios because there was just so much to get done. Our half of the family left out a little earlier than the rest because it was taking a while to get started in the mornings for the first 2 mornings. There's so many people, and we decided we were just going to go ahead and get our family ready and go ahead without them, and they could meet up when they wanted to, and they didn't have to feel rushed by us because we just do things quicker than they do as a family. So we met up after deciding that my mom needed to have a wheelchair because my mom is, how old is she, 67?
68.
She's 68, and that's hard on anybody. And oh, stop it. And so that's hard on anybody. And we decided she was having a hard time. She was feeling really exhausted. So we said, let's get you a wheelchair. And she kicked against that. She did not want to do that at first. But once we got her in the wheelchair and she realized she was not a burden to anybody and that is the way to go, I'm going to tell you that was the way to go. She had a much better time on the the last 2 days, I think, than she did the first 2 days because of that wheelchair. And so we found her a wheelchair, and there was a lot more waiting in line to meet the characters at Hollywood Studios. And if you're wondering why I'm saying Hollywood Studios, if you're not aware, it has changed over from MGM Studios. It used to be Disney MGM, now it's Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, Epcot had not had as many people the day before. Hollywood Studios, however, was elbow to elbow. It's because there's more thrill rides there. It's kind of a little more contemporary, a little more upscale, not as traditional Disney. It's got a little more of the new type stuff to it, I think. More of your...
More for older people.
More for older people and not as kid attraction.
Studios is my part.
That's Kayla's jam. She loves Star Wars. That's where all the Star Wars stuff is at Hollywood Studios. And so we took the Star Tours. I didn't put that in the show notes, but I'll have to add that in. We did Star Tours. That's one of the first things we did. That was fantastic. Kayla, Noah, and my stepdad, and I think Evan as well, They did it all. They all did it twice. The main attractions, though, besides Star Tours, because the Star Wars stuff was the main thing Kayla wanted to experience, but other than that, we also wanted to experience the Frozen show, the Disney Junior show, because my kid and Logan is... Merida and Logan are both. That's what they love, is the Disney Junior stuff on television. They had a little show there for that. Beauty and the Beast show in their little Palladium theater there. And Tower of Terror and Rockin' Roller Coaster. That was Noah's thing. He loves the roller coasters and stuff like that. So he's a thrill ride fanatic. So he loves those. He was looking forward to those. And of course, the light show at the end of the night, Fantasmic, that they always do at Hollywood Studios. Those were the things we were looking for. Fantasmic was closed. We were waiting to get on Fantasmic. We did the Tower of Terror, then we immediately did the Rockin' Roller Coaster. Who was it? It was me and Evan and Mike and Noah were the four that did the Tower of Terror and the Rockin' Roller Coaster. We rode each one twice, and then it was supposed to be time to go to Fantasmic, which is the light show. Mickey over the water. It's beautiful. It's a fantastic thing. Right as we were getting ready to go in, they started making announcements that they had to shut it down due to technical difficulties. And Kayla was in line, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Kayla was in line up at the front of the park at Guest Relations, and there was lines packing in with people angry because they wanted to get back and get vouchers to see that light show. But those were the ones that we were interested in. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about each one, but I do want to take a special moment to talk about the Frozen show, because the Frozen show stood out to me and Kayla above all of them. It's a can't miss if you go to Hollywood Studios. It is, all of those shows are good, but this one took it up a notch. I think it kind of represents the future of what those type of entertainment shows at Disney World are going to be. It had a combination of live performance. The two narrators at the beginning were just perfect and hilarious. And of course, it had some of the characters from the show's live action characters from the show, but it also mixed video and effects, partnered with the sing-along aspect. The crowd was invited to be a part of the show, and I feel like it's like the purest form of Disney magic, and it did not disappoint. Noah, were you saying something?
When you said that there were live action people from the actual movie, there was Kristoff, Anna, and Elsa. If you've seen the movie, some of the key characters of the movie, which I thought they all looked like.
They did. The people that they had cast as these characters, Disney does a great job of casting them to be the real live version of what's on TV. It really brings everything together to give you that experience. And so I just want to take a moment and tell you, if you go to Hollywood Studios, you've got to go see the Frozen show. It is fantastic, and I don't want to give away anything of it as far as any of the effects or surprises and things. It's just a really fantastic show, so go see that if you can. On a negative note about our Frozen experience, that's what I was going to tell you. The reason Kayla was at the front of Guest Relations, Noah's phone slipped out of his pocket and was nowhere to be found when we went back to look. We were walking away, and he suddenly went to go for his phone and realized it's not there, and he said, "Dad, my phone's gone." We went back, it was not there, so they said check Guest Relations, and that's what Kayla was doing at the end of the day. On a positive note, they had it. A cast member had found it, and that's, by the way, if you wonder why I'm saying cast member, that's what the employees at the Disney parks are all called. They're cast members. They're always supposed to be on stage in character at all times. And so they had found it and took it to Lost and Found at Guest Relations, and Kayla was able to pick it back up. And that was great, because Noah had worried about that all day long, and he was able to get his phone back and didn't lose all his stuff. And then that was it for Hollywood Studios. We did everything to do there, and it was really fun. And then, of course, as we were walking out, Merida turned her little angel face toward me and said, "Daddy, I don't want to leave." She was breaking my heart, because I knew we had one more day, and I was not looking forward to her saying that on the last day. I thought I was going to cry if I had to witness that. So part 2, Magic Kingdom on day 4. Here was the prayer that came into my mind to start the day as I walked out the door on day 4, Magic Kingdom, part 2, was, "Dear Heavenly Father, please forgive us for whatever we did that sent us into this fiery depth of hell. The sun is actually baking my eyeballs through my shades." It was that hot. It was miserable.
It was absolutely
And it was kind of crazy because it didn't feel as hot at first as it did the day before, but it was somehow more humid and sweatier. You felt hotter, even though the sun didn't feel like it was as hot. It just, the sun caught up, man, I'm telling you. And the first thing we did, we wanted to hit the things that we had not hit before. So, on the first day. So we hit the Carousel of Progress. And there's not much to say about that. It's the Carousel of Progress. It talks about the progress from what electricity and technology has come from like the early 1900s all the way to modern day. And it's a neat little carousel ride. It's in the dark. You sit down. It's cool in there. It's a great way to cool off, even if it's in the middle of the day and you need somewhere to cool off. It's about a 20-minute show. And so that was really neat. And then next was Space Mountain, one of the big attractions, one of the traditions of Disney World. We hadn't hit it the first day. So, we're taking an exit?
We are.
Oh, okay.
I have made an executive decision.
Did you not tell them?
They're right behind us.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, let's make it here. Our caravan, have to make sure we're going on in the right way with our caravan. And I got to hurry this up because I don't have much battery left on my computer. So anyway, we were on Space Mountain and we had fast passes for 4 of us to ride twice. It was Kayla, me, Evan, and Papa, again, that we're going to ride that. And we had the fast passes because the other 4 did not want to ride it. So we got to ride it twice. Well, Kayla determined after the first go-round that roller coasters are now off of the menu for her. She just didn't attend the second ride because it didn't make her sick, but it didn't do her any...
It was going to.
It was going to. Here's a clip from Space Mountain. We're walking into the World of Tomorrow area of Disneyland, and Noah's about to get to ride one of the ones he's been looking forward to the most.
Space Mountain.
Space Mountain. Been here for ages. I'm looking forward to riding this for the first time with you.
Yep.
It is hot today. It is.
Yeah.
Of course, we're...
I think that the reason we're so sweating so much is because we've been here for 5 days now.
Well, and it's a lot more humid yesterday and today. It's not as hot as it was yesterday, but it's more humid. And it's we are just, well, as soon as we got off the little tram, what they call it, the monorail, and started walking in here, it just got sweaty. You want to smell? Here. Smell my armpit. Tell them how it smells.
I'm either going to be riding with my cousin over there or you, but I'm thinking about riding it with you since I rode ROCKIN Roller Coaster with Evan yesterday.
I'm cool with you riding it with me, but I'm cool with you riding it with Evan too. Whatever you want to do, I'm cool.
But
Why don't you ride it with Evan? Because I'll be riding it next to your mom.
Yeah, that'll be good. All right. See you there.
So now we've ridden Space Mountain twice.
Yep.
Kayla didn't ride it the second time because
Kayla was too smart to ride it the second time.
Kayla gets sick the second time, or got sick. Well, you didn't get sick the first time on it, but you...
No, but I could tell if I tried it again, I would.
It was a little more shaky, and Evan, my nephew, hit on one of the ride people.
Yeah, I did. Told her she was pretty.
Kayla won't let me hit on any of the ride people.
No.
I've seen my share of skin, though. When you come to Disney World in the middle of the summer, people don't wear clothes. Really, people that need to be wearing clothes are not wearing clothes. And once we got off of Space Mountain, it was time for more waiting in lines. We had more characters to meet. We wanted to try to get Merida to get a chance to meet all of the characters she possibly could, so we waited in line to meet those characters. Then we watched the Festival of Fantasy Parade again, and headed to the Peter Pan ride after that. And we weren't overly impressed with that one. However, Kayla needs money. We are stopped, and Kayla's going in. Kayla's going to do me a favor. When you come back, bring me another Dr. Pepper out of the cooler in the back, please. So next it was time for me and Noah and Merida to go to the Dumbo ride. Merida, how did you like riding the Dumbo ride?
We buckled our seatbelts and then we did it faster.
Did we go up high?
Yeah. Yeah.
She really enjoyed the Dumbo ride, and you go way up high and you go round and round, and she really enjoyed that. After that, it was off to Pirates of the Caribbean. At some point during that, I can't remember what it was that we did while she went and played in the water. there was a little area where they were just kind of spitting water, and there was a little water play area for kids. And she went and, okay, that's right, Kayla and I went and did the Haunted Mansion, and Noah and Evan went and did Splash Mountain one more time, and then ended up going into Haunted Mansion as well. So we did that, and that's right. And then here's a little bit of a sound bite, as much as I could get from Merida on the Dumbo ride. Okay, now let's tell them again what you're about to ride.
Dumbo.
Dumbo, and what is Dumbo?
An elephant.
Okay, we're about to get on the Dumbo ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun, aren't we?
Yeah.
And then after all that, we were off to the Pirates of the Caribbean, because you gotta do Pirates of the Caribbean when you're at the Magic Kingdom. We're waiting to go on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
No.
So it's time to do our pirate voices, yar. I'm gonna make you walk.
I'm a dirty pirate.
I'm gonna make you walk the plank, don't you know? I'm a Scottish pirate.
That's more Canadian.
Oh, maybe I'll be an Irish pirate, don't you know? I'll have you walk the plank, me boy, and go right into the ocean.
Okay, we're about to ride the Pirates of the Caribbean. It's gonna be daggum fun. So
You gotta talk
see
like
you
a
later.
pirate. You gotta talk like a pirate.
Arr, we be going into the Pirates of the Caribbean. We see you later.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I was being a pirate Irishman, is what I was doing. I'm having me lucky charms as we get on the raid, don't you know? And after that, we ended the final night of Disney World with Aladdin's carpet ride. That was with me and Kayla and Merida and Noah, and I think Evan and Logan were on that as well. And then we went on the Jungle Cruise. Kayla and I didn't really care too much for the Jungle Cruise either. It was a little bit cheesy, but I think they need to rework the idea for the Jungle Cruise. It's good to be there, but my opinion's they need to rework it. But hey, that's just my opinion. But that's what we did, and that was the end of our Disney World trip. It was time to go home, get a good night's sleep, and finally head back towards Georgia and South Carolina, where we respectively live. We were afraid Merida would not want to leave. We did not have to listen to her say that she didn't want to leave this time, though, because luckily she fell asleep on the way out, even through the tram and all the way home. She never woke up. We stopped. We waited in line at a McDonald's and a Burger King for, I would say, probably between an hour and a half in the lines of the drive-thru at those places. And finally got back to the house we were renting and got a good night's sleep, and we're on our way home now. So that's where we are. So that was our Disney trip. And I tell you what I'm planning to do in the very next episode. It will either be episode 38 or episode 39. I'm going to do a Disney Hacks. I'm going to talk about all the things I learned, because through this experience, we've learned a lot of things that'll kind of help you out, whether it's for your budget, to make things a little easier on your budget, little tricks that we learned, and some other things as well. I'm going to do a Disney Hacks episode, and I'm hoping it will be the next episode. So look forward to that coming up. Had some final thoughts. We decided that not only Kayla and I would take a romantic trip back to Disney World, hopefully in January, which you heard in the soundbite, but we've also decided we enjoyed this trip so much, especially now that we've got two kids and they're both of the age to enjoy everything and have a great time. We've decided we want to try to come back every couple of years. I'm going to look into the vacation club, whether or not I do that. There's a Disney vacation club thing. I haven't looked at it. Don't know whether we're going to get into that or not, but I'm going to look into it, because we want to come back every couple of years, I think. Only when it's not so infernally hot. And on the last note, we did make some little friends in the house. There were lizards all over the place in the place that we stayed, and you may not like lizards, but Kayla and I are animal people. We love animals. Kayla and Noah too, and we're raising Merida to be the same way. We love animals. And the very first night we got there were lizards running to and fro across the little sidewalk in front of the house. My stepdad came up one morning, was it the second morning or the third morning, with a baby lizard he had caught in the bathtub of the house we were staying. Tiny little lizard. And I'm glad he had it. I would have been afraid that I would hurt it. And then there was a snail we had to walk, step over going home one night, and two frogs. So we had some friends that we met there in Florida as well. So anyway, that is our Disney trip. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have something you'd like to add, or you'd like to have a question answered, or you got anything you'd like to get in touch with me, here's how you do it. You can get in touch with me by email at feedback@michaelblackston.com. You can also call the hotline at 706-408-7456, or go to michaelblackston.com and leave a comment there on that website as well. Lots of ways you can get in touch with me if you really want to. So other than that, you've been in the car with me and my wife and my son and my daughter on the way back from Disney. It feels so much better in the car than it does outside where it's 103 degrees. Whew. Next Disney trip, I'm hoping to be wearing a jacket. Until next time, thanks for joining me, Michael Blackston, on Road Noise as we learn to live life 1 mile at a time. What was your favorite ride?
I think probably either Space Mountain or ROCKIN Roller Coaster.
So Tower of Terror didn't make it into the top 2. Tower of Terror.
The Tower of Terror is probably 3. So yeah.
It's a small world. That ride right up there with you and your thrill factor.
Probably 15.
This is the best show